Salam friends, welcome back to the channel. So since aku post video pasal cryptocurrency ni, ramai actually orang tanya aku macam-macam soalan berkaitan pasal cryptocurrency. Ada yang tanya pasal Gigamax, ada yang tanya pasal arbitrage, FSEX, how to buy cryptocurrency, how to withdraw cryptocurrency. So if sekiranya dalam banyak-banyak soalan kamu tu aku indah terjawab, sama ada aku terlalu sibuk dan aku simply indah tahu jawapannya. Aku ni simple, kalau aku indah faham, aku indah akan buat that investment. Kalau aku faham, aku akan buat dan aku akan share arah kamu for free. So dalam banyak-banyak soalan tu, there's actually one question yang menarik minatku untuk menjawab, iaitu Kawi, are we actually late in cryptocurrency? Can you prove me wrong? Please enlighten me. Honestly, if you ask me, nobody knows the answer because nobody actually can predict the future. Dulu cryptocurrency harganya 17,000. Now sekarang harganya 40,000. Should we buy cryptocurrency now or should we leave this cryptocurrency sebab ia akan jatuh lagi? Actually, nobody knows. However, I have few data, I have few evidence that I can share with you yang you all boleh judge ke manakah hala tuju cryptocurrency. But before I answer that question, I want to share with you pasal ekonomi berkaitan dengan cryptocurrency ni. And you must stay with me in this video sebab if you miss out this part, you indah akan faham at the end. So stay with me. Before we answer that question, make sure you support me by subscribing to this channel, follow my TikTok channel, follow my Instagram channel, or you can also subscribe to my Telegram channel. You can see the link below where you can interact with me closely. Alright, so if you're ready, let's get to it. So let's start with COVID-19. So did you know that during COVID-19, harga cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin, reached all-time high sebanyak 68,000 US dollar, almost 69,000 US dollar. Do you know that? And by the way, harga cryptocurrency, Bitcoin masa ni 41,000 US dollar roughly at the time of this recording. So do you know why this happened? Ia semakin popular masa COVID-19. So apabila COVID-19 happen, ramai actually orang mengalami masalah seperti kehilangan bisnes, kehilangan pekerjaan, orang semakin banyak berhutang. Then who will solve the problem? Government has to step up and to come up with a solution. That's why during COVID-19 ni, menteri-menteri kita ni paning untuk solve problem ni. That's why it is important untuk setiap negara mempunyai cash reserve dan asset reserve. Kenapa mesti ada reserve? So macam inilah during COVID-19, bila ada masalah, ada emergency, duit saving dikeluarkan, aset dicairkan dan untuk support kita ni punya life. So macam individu sendiri, if you ada saving emergency, inilah gunanya. Tapi kalau government pun sama, just imagine government ni, ia macam manusia biasa juga. Bila ada isu, ada emergency, ia akan mengeluarkan ia punya reserve, ia akan mencairkan ia punya aset-aset untuk membantu orang-orangnya. That is why if you remember, government kita ni di Brunei ada membagi stimulus kepada bisnes-bisnes kecil dan sederhana. Untuk Malaysia sendiri, diorang mengeluarkan KWSP diorang kalau di Brunei, TAP ataupun SPK. Sepatutnya ia keluar umur 50 ataupun 55 ataupun seumpamanya. Tetapi di Malaysia, pasal krisis kewangan, pasal krisis COVID-19 ini, duit KWSP diorang dikeluarkan untuk support diorang punya life. Tu kalau government ada duit, and government ada aset. What if government atu nada duit, nada aset untuk digunakan untuk support dia punya orang? Apa ia patut buat? So salah satu short term solution untuk solve masalah ini ialah to provide loan, untuk membagi pinjaman. As I said earlier, kalau sudah government nada duit, nada aset, and diorang mau bagi pinjaman duit ini datangnya dari mana? So artinya government has to print more money. It will create new money in the system. Government print duit untuk bantu ia punya rakyat. Yes, you are right. Giving loans actually creating new money in the system. Duit baru dalam sistem dunia kita ni. So what happens kiranya if 1 juta penduduk ni mau pinjam duit di bank, mau pinjam duit arah government, tapi government nada duit. So government has to print more money. 1 juta penduduk pinjam duit 10,000 each. So 10,000 kali 1 juta, artinya 10 billion duit perlu government print to support the public. So that means ada 10 billion wang kertas will be created in the system. New money in the system. Tapi Kawi, benar kan ni? Are you actually telling the truth? Well, let's look at this statement. Let's look at this data dari Nasdaq as March of 2021. So dengan data dikeluarkan oleh Nasdaq ini as of March 2021, COVID-19 actually cost total 5.2 trillion US dollar. World War II cost 4.7 trillion in today's dollar. So artinya we actually spend more money during COVID ini berbanding dengan Perang Dunia Kedua. So all-in money printing total 13 trillion US dollar, 5.2 for COVID, 4.5 for quantitative easing, plus 3 trillion for infrastructure. So mountains of money cause inflation. So that's why as I said earlier, during COVID-19 ini, banyak orang risau pasal diorang punya kewangan. Not just as individu, but company, investors, all these high institutional banks, they are worried about their investment. So artinya dorang punya investment tu indah lagi bagus. If you see banyak market jatuh during COVID-19 sebab orang takut investment dorang tu indah lagi berhasil. So this is actually a normal behavior of human. If sekiranya you invest arah sesuatu tempat and tempat itu indah menjadi, indah membagi pulangan yang baik, what do? You akan tarik you punya money, you can withdraw you punya money and simpan somewhere else. That is why during COVID-19 banyak actually investment firm, individu, investors, they pull out their money sebab diorang indah lagi percaya dengan sistem kewangan pada waktu itu. Sebab everyone is in panic situation. Let's talk a little bit pasal inflation ini. If we print new money in the system, that will create inflation. That's for sure. That is the basic rule of supply and demand. A lot of supply of money tapi demandnya kurang. It will cause inflation. So adakah actually problem solved? Government ingin tolong ia punya rakyat. So rakyatnya ada duit, they want to borrow money from government. Tapi government pun ada duit. What they do? They will print new money. When they print new money, they will give it to the rakyat. Adakah solve problem itu? Yes, it will solve the problem. Tapi sementara sahaja. What will happen in the long run? Kalau government continue buat cuma ni, pinjamkan duit arah orang punya rakyat. Remember, government actually dia boleh print money terlampau banyak. Diorang mesti control the supply of money in the world. So what does government do to discourage people, the public, untuk pinjam duit? What will government do? Have you ever heard about interest rate ataupun kadar faedah? So actually barang ini is a tool untuk slow down the economy, or in other words, to discourage people from borrowing money from the government. Sebab bila orang pinjam duit, diorang akan dikenakan faedah ataupun interest. So bila government naikkan interest, ia macam alah aku jadi pinjam duit sebab interestnya tinggi. So US Federal Reserve actually ada barang ani, ada tool ani untuk diorang gunakan to slow down the economy supaya orang indah lagi banyak pinjam duit. Pasal if orang banyak pinjam duit, dah berhenti wah diorang print duit ani. So that's why they naikkan interest rate to discourage people untuk pinjam duit. So macam Malaysia diorang ada OPR. It's actually the same thing dengan interest rate dari Federal Reserve ataupun US. So bila US menaikkan interest rate ini, ia akan menyejaskan seluruh kewangan dunia. So US ini akan dilihat sebagai contoh, sebagai abang. So bila ia menaikkan interest rate, so negara lain pun mungkin akan ikut sama, especially Malaysia. It depends on ekonomi masing-masing. Interest rate ini sebenarnya bagus, ia adalah satu tool untuk slow down ekonomi supaya negara itu indah naik ke tahap hyperinflation ataupun worst case scenario lagi recession. So kawi di Brunei adakah ni interest rate macam di US ni? Adakah ia affected by Federal Reserve? Adakah ia sama macam OPR di Malaysia? Well, di Brunei punya interest rate ni it's a bit unique. Brunei punya ekonomi is a bit unique. Ia dah sama macam di US. So if you look at Brunei Darussalam Central Bank punya website and Trading Economics, we have our own Federal Reserve iaitu Brunei Darussalam Central Bank. So Central Bank ini durang yang actually control interest rate di Brunei. Tapi durang ada pernah set benchmark as you look at this website tradingeconomics.com. In Brunei Darussalam Central Bank does not set a benchmark interest rate. Instead, the minimum rate fixed by Brunei Association of Banks charged by commercial banks on loans to preferred customers in national currency is used. So if you look at this data, Brunei actually set dorang punya benchmark 5.5%. So Brunei Darussalam Central Bank, dorang ingin membagi kata putus berapa interest rate patut dibagi arah public. So yen dia bagi that control arah bank. Instead, ia bagi guidance sahaja, flexible rate ataupun minimum ataupun as benchmark 5.5%. Terpulang kepada bank di Brunei, berapa dorang akan bagi loan arah public. And normally banks akan bagi competitive loans macam loan rumah 4.5%, personal loans 7% dan sebagainya. You can actually look those numbers dalam BDCB punya website supaya you tahu berapa kadar faedah yang you kena charge kalau you membuat pinjaman di bank di Brunei. Okay, so adakah masalah itu sudah solve? Public actually berguna duit, tapi government ada duit, so they will print new money to support the public. It will solve the problem? Yes, it will solve the problem temporarily, short term sahaja. So just remember this rule, if interest rate naik, bonds akan turun. The graph is actually inverse proportion. Is it a problem kalau bonds turun? Yes, it is a problem. Look at this graph. Kalau ramai orang invest di dalam bonds, not just you, not just individu, banks pun invest di dalam bonds, negara pun invest di dalam bonds, termasuk Brunei. If you tidak percaya, you can look at this website, Tap Brunei, diorang actually invest duit ke tani tiap bulan yang diorang potong dalam tani punya gaji itu. They use that money to invest di dalam bonds. That is why tani akan dapat dividend every year 2.5% roughly macam itu. Well, not just bonds turun, banyak lagi investment lain akan terjejas. As I said earlier, pasal COVID-19. So, you punya ripple effect cuma COVID-19, ramai orang berhutang, government print new money, interest rate diorang naikkan. Bila interest rate naik, bonds akan turun. Bila bonds akan turun, ia akan menjejaskan investment ke tani. Stocks, duit ketani di bank. So, semua akan terjejas. What happen if US naikkan interest rate mendadakannya macam orang gila dan menyebabkan bonds turun? I want you to remember this date. On March 10, 2023, Silicon Valley Bank fell after a bank run, marking the third largest bank failure in United States history and the largest since 2007-2008 financial crisis. It was one of the three bank failures along with Silvergate Bank and Signature Bank in March 2023 in the United States. So I want you to remember this one. This bank failure is actually one of the most important events on shaping cryptocurrency punya market. So just remember, when US menaikkan interest rate ini macam orang gila, Silicon Valley Bank terjejas. Kenapa dia terjejas? Sebab dia banyak invest duit customernya di dalam bonds. Remember, interest rate naik, bonds turun. Bila bonds turun, artinya investment Silicon Valley Bank ini merosot, bah. Bila ia merosot, artinya they are running out of cash. When they are running out of cash, rumors spread around and people actually withdrawing their money from the bank, which causes the bank to collapse. Not just Silicon Valley Bank, Silvergate and Signature Bank pun turut terjejas pasal barang ini. So just remember, if something happen in US, especially on money, it will affect other banks as well. So seluruh dunia melihat event ini, ia terasa terjejas. Orang sudah mula hilang kepercayaan kepada bank. Regardless bank atau invest dalam bonds ke, apakah generally conventional bank, orang akan terasa risau. Termasuk Brunei sendiri, orang rasa, selamat tak kalau simpan duit di bank ini? Imagine aku simpan duitku di bank and bank actually kehabisan duit and bank atau collapse. So is it actually safe to put our money in the bank now? Look at Silicon Valley, look at Silvergate Bank, look at Signature Bank. Dorang ni bukannya bank damit, dorang ni bank besar. Silicon Valley Bank is actually technology punya bank. Ramai orang simpan duit di sana and bank atau actually collapse. So just imagine, orang dah lagi percayakan Silicon Valley Bank. Silicon Valley Bank ini ia terletak di US and if something terjadi di US, ia akan create ripple effect ke seluruh dunia. So seluruh dunia dah lagi percaya bank as a conventional way to save their money or to do investment. Orang lagi percayakan bank. So what they do, diorang keluarkan diorang punya duit and they want to put their money somewhere else, ke tempat yang lebih selamat. Where is it? Yes, you are right. People will start investing or put their money arah gold ataupun emas. By the way, if you look at this chart closely, bukan saja emas yang menarik minat investor. You look at cryptocurrency, especially Bitcoin. Harga Bitcoin pun turut naik apabila bank ini collapse. Itu menunjukkan orang optimistik, orang percaya kepada cryptocurrency seperti Bitcoin dan Ethereum. Bank collapse, orang percaya arah dua benda, emas dan cryptocurrency. So now I hope you sudah faham apa kaitan ekonomi, interest rate dengan cryptocurrency. Now, let's look at 2024 punya important event. Number one, halving. So Bitcoin was first created by Satoshi Nakamoto pada tahun 2009, di mana ia create Bitcoin ini cuma sebanyak 21 juta sahaja available di dalam blockchain. So itu menjadikan ia sangat limited supply sahaja. So next year in 2024 bulan April, di mana akan terjadi halving, di mana 21 juta ni akan direduce menjadi separuh, menjadikan ia menjadi limited edition lagi. So remember the rule of supply and demand. Kalau sekiranya supply itu semakin kurang, demand makin tinggi, artinya harganya akan dijangka meningkat. So harga Bitcoin dan Ethereum akan dijangka meningkat pada tahun depan. Number two, ETF approval. Well, I don't want to explain further what is ETF. You can look at my previous video pasal ETF or you can look other video as well and belajar apa itu ETF. Namun, if you belajar pasal investment dari mana-mana guru ataupun coach, ia akan mengajar you untuk invest di dalam ETF. ETF ini apa? For short, itu adalah collection of saham di dalam basket. Contoh S&P 500 adalah ETF. So daripada you invest di dalam saham Apple sebagai individu, it's better for you untuk invest di dalam ETF, di mana ETF ni is a collection of saham di mana risikonya lebih rendah daripada you invest di dalam satu saham sahaja. So apabila gold ETF first introduced pada tahun 2004, ramai actually orang minat invest di dalam ETF gold ni sebab ia lebih berisiko rendah dan ia lebih selamat. So, orang lebih suka barang ni, so menyebabkan gold ETF punya price naik mendadak. So, if you look at the incident earlier yang aku terangkan pasal Silicon Valley Bank, ada somehow relationship between gold dengan cryptocurrency. So, if gold ETF naik pada tahun 2004 masa ia first introduce, orang pun akan rasa Bitcoin dan Ethereum approval ni akan menyebabkan price of cryptocurrency akan naik just sama macam gold ETF punya behavior. So these two important events akan happen pada tahun 2024. Halving of Bitcoin will happen in April, insyaAllah. ETF approval for Bitcoin and Ethereum will happen anytime soon. So ask yourself, are we actually late in cryptocurrency?
Is it better to buy now or is it better to buy after these two important events? Well, you decide. This is not a financial advice. It is better for you to do your own research first before start making any purchase on cryptocurrency, stocks, or gold, or whatever investment out there. I hope you learned something in this video. If you have any comments or questions, make sure you put that in the comment section below. Subscribe to this channel, like this video, and follow all my social media. Alright, so I hope to see you on the next video. Assalamualaikum. Bye-bye.